Okay, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be making a wide oak vanity with a custom concrete countertop. But before we can get into that, I needed to take some time to clean up the shop. I didn't do a good job of cleaning up when I finished out the last project, so this is just me trying to organize a space. If I have a clean space, it helps my brain feel clean and I can start fresh. Pretty standard order of operations. First step, gotta get all of the white oak material in the garage and set up. There honestly wasn't too much lumber for this one. A few 4/4 boards and then one 8/4 board for the legs and some of the supports. I've been keeping my laptop in the shop with me just so I can go back and reference different drawings and things. It has proven to be pretty helpful so far. One of my first steps, since my joiner is a little out of whack and not really 90, I can't get a good clean cut on it, so I've just been using my track saw to straight line rip basically all of the boards starting out. It simplifies the process, and I did it with all the boards long, just so I had to make one cut instead of trying to set the saw up on a bunch of small boards and just add more work. I don't know if you can tell, but in this shot my vacuum got completely full and all the extra dust was just shooting out everywhere, even on me. Once I've got all the boards, got a straight edge ripped on them, move on to planing the boards. I've made a long in-feed and out-feed board right here that I just put some supports under. It helps eliminate some of the snipe, and also, since again my joiner one is only 6 inches wide and I can't really get a super flat surface on any of my boards, I have resorted to using this and just putting shims underneath the boards on high spots, and it has been super effective, but probably not a permanent solution, so trying to look into different joiners for the future. Now that we have two flat faces and one straight edge, I cut the boards down to length or rough length off camera, and then going through and cutting the pieces to size. So these first parts are going to be the legs and the horizontal supports, which will make up the frame of this vanity. I decided to send all of the freshly cut parts through the planer one more time on two sides, just to get everything to be exactly the same dimension instead of trying to match it up to my table saw. That seemed like the easiest method at the time. I was trying to just look through the boards, find which faces I wanted to use, but it does kind of just look like random chaos right now. With those faces selected, got everything cut down to the rough length again, and then went through and get everything cut to width so that I can prepare for a panel glue up, or two glue ups actually. I tried a little bit of a new method. Instead of using biscuits, I just went ahead and used a spline basically all the way through these boards, try to get a little more of a flat glue up. I think it worked pretty well. I need to refine the process if I want to keep trying this, but went ahead and threw a bunch of clamps on there, got some good squeeze out, and just let this sit overnight so that it can dry. One of the more enjoyable parts of woodworking for me is when I get those clamps off of glue up and getting to see a panel for the first time. I remember first time I ever did this, I was pretty nervous, but now it's kind of second nature. I went ahead and did a rough sanding of the panel off camera just so that I could have a smoother surface to work with, but got the track saw set up again to get one edge cut so that I could measure to the other side and get it cut basically to final length, and then just going through and sanding through the grits. Went 80, 120, 150. Once we finished the sanding, went ahead and got the table saw set up to cut some of these panels to the length that they needed to be for the end caps. I tried a revolutionary thing on this project and kept a checklist of all the parts and processes. So here we have the legs and the horizontal supports, and I'm just trying to get some joinery laid out. I was going to use my router and do some mortises here and create some loose tenons, but I made a rough jig just to give me my parameters for how long these mortises could be. Pretty rudimentary, but it got the job done, so I think I'm going to try and experiment more with this in the future. But I got a new half-inch upcut spiral bit from Whiteside for this, and made cutting all these mortises super easy. I actually made two different router jig setups, one for the half-inch that you saw earlier, and then made a second one for quarter-inch. These are going to be for the skinnier front rails. Obviously not enough material to do a half-inch mortise like you see here on the end, but the quarter-inch is going to be slim enough but provide enough strength for the frame. And these are all the pieces for the half-inch tenon, loose tenon that I was using. Just had to put a round over on them so that they would fit in the hole nicely. But here you can see it's not a complicated process, but it gets the job done. One of the trickier parts trying to use all these little makeshift dominoes is where some of them came together. I had to put a 45-degree angle so that they wouldn't stop the legs and the horizontal pieces from getting glued together, and they'd match up in a miter inside the joint. Never going to see it, but pretty unusual forethought for me at that point. But started the glue up process by just getting all the tenons in their respective pieces first, letting that glue dry a little bit. You can see the beginnings of this glue up. That's the front frame right there, and then just getting some of the measurements, trying to cut some half laps for the skinnier rails so that everything fits together nicely. Got to get a shot of coffee too. Give me the energy. Here you can see me trying to get the saw dialed in to cut those half laps for the rails, and after a little bit of math it got everything set up, but forgot to wear my new safety goggles that my wife bought me for Christmas, so I'm just squinting away trying to see everything. Got started on the glue up here, and you can see with the clamps holding those half laps together, and then where the tops and bottoms attach with those quarter-inch mortise and loose tenon, and then similar to the ends of this face frame, just with those half-inch and some quarter-inch mortise and tenon. And then once I got those pieced together, just brought out my extra long pipe clamps and just get everything nice and snug so that the glue can dry. Right here I'm just checking to make sure the frame is square, and so I brought out another clamp just on the diagonal and just tweaked it a little bit I was out of square by about a 16th of an inch. I think this is one of the first glue ups that I've done where I think I had all the clamps I needed. We're going to keep moving right along, so what you see here is I'm cutting some rabbets in some of these pieces of the frame that will make up the end caps that a solid panel is going to sit into. And I felt this was going to be the simplest method to attach these, but had to do some stop cuts, which never feel super safe, but I've done them enough that it didn't feel super complicated. But that because of the stop cut, it leaves that roundness there at the end. So just taking my router, cleaning out a lot of the material, and then come back with my chisels just to refine that shape some more. I accidentally cut an extra mortise in this leg right here, so that was something I had to go back and fix later. But the corner turned out nice for the panel. Most of my projects I enjoy every part of it, but in this one it just got a little old. With you can see that stack of all those parts I had to go through and sand all four sides, 80 grit, 120, 150, just so that everything was nice and smooth. I'll save you the pain of watching the multiple hours of sanding. So I attached some plywood pieces to some of that front frame. That's where some drawer slides are going to sit. But you can see how with the half laps everything all locked together, and it made for a super strong structure, but I had to be a little more meticulous in the process of this glue up so that everything worked together nicely. Once I got all the pieces to play nice together, I just bring out the clamps and get everything tightened down, got a little squeeze out, and went through and just wiped up anything that could interfere either with finish or stain that I was going to be putting on later. Hopefully in this part you'll be able to see these are some of the pieces that I cut those rabbets in. You can see at the top and then in that middle rail. So getting prepped for glue up and just filling the mortises, and you can see in those tenons the little 45 cut in there so that everything fits together nicely. But these are the parts where that solid panel is going to get put in. I waited to stick the panel in permanently just because when I was doing the dry fit I ran into some issues, which benefit of doing a dry fit was able to kind of work out the kinks and find the smoothest process to get those panels in there nicely without causing myself too much headache. But here I am just taking those end caps out of clamps and getting them mocked up a little bit. But this is your first real glimpse at what the Vanity will look like. But what I learned here is a dry fit only works successfully if you try to do the glue up the same as a dry fit. And I don't know what I'm doing here, but this is not what I did during the dry fit. So maybe the reason I look like I'm moving around a little fast and a little chaotic is because the glue started to set up. I started to get a little worried, and was just time to kick it into overdrive. But everything worked out in the end. Just getting an assortment of clamps out, make sure everything's nice and snug. This is the front of our vanity. So the countertops that we poured, we sit up here. This first drawer on the left and right hand side will be faux fronts, because the bottom of the sink should come to the bottom of this rail, and then the plumbing will have to get figured out through there. Another skinny drawer, wider drawer, wider drawer, and then same thing, we're gonna have a wide drawer, wide drawer. This will be the first drawer on this side and be mimicked on that side. And there's also gonna be a shelf down in there that will be for towel storage and different things, but trying to maximize. Once all the glue dried, just going back with a smoothing plane and my sander, just making sure that all of these edges on the front lined up nicely. And then after that was done, went through with a stain by Minwax called Rustic Beige, just to give this white oak a little bit of an aged look before putting some Osmo on this for the final finish. These are amazing. Got pretty much all the stain off my hands with one towel. So get you some tub of towels. On the back side of this panel, which will end up being all the drawer fronts, there was a crack in one of the boards, and my best plan was just to put a bow tie in here to hold it together to stabilize that crack. It's going to be in the middle of a drawer front, so it worked out well. I was kind of hoping that it would land in a spot where it would get cut into separate drawer fronts, but at the end of the day, this worked out well and should hold pretty good. After getting that bow tie glued in and letting the glue dry, it's time to cut the drawer fronts to size, and I didn't give myself a lot of wiggle room here, so I measured about a bajillion times before I made these cuts. And then after doing that, the client wanted a specific profile put on the front of the drawer front, and so I just took a roundover bit and extended it a little more than you normally would to give it this profile. I honestly don't know what this is called, but in the end I think it turned out really great. So we get to do some more staining. It's just that rustic beige, but you can kind of see it on that panel behind me. It just darkens the white oak just a little bit and makes it look super good. I went ahead and put 2 coats of Osmo on everything. I think I talk about that in a little bit, but it's become probably my favorite finish. Super durable, sheds water really well. I figured that would be a good use in a bathroom. Got the frame ready for its last coat of finish. Got cutouts there and there for the sink, and got everything prepped for the counter. We've got all the slats for the lower shelf and all the drawer fronts laid down with their last coat of finish and just drying. And then the final piece to the puzzle is the countertop. So got everything ground down so it smooths at the touch. Got these holes dialed in for the faucet. Now that I had the final dimensions with the frame all glued up, I was able to make some drawer fronts. Little confession, I made one set of drawers and they turned out terrible. Didn't have the right blade in and didn't measure as accurately, so I went back and did it a second time. So when you see me with this blue pullover on, that was attempt number 1. You're going to see me in a second with a gray hoodie. That was attempt number 2, and those drawers came out significantly better. This is me trying to make it look like everything's working out smoothly, but internally I'm freaking out because there's a lot of chip out from the veneer on these drawers. So I'm just trying to play it cool for the video, but you all know this is attempt number 1 and we gotta do everything twice. But I did cut some grooves for the drawer bottoms to fit in, which was a little complicated because a lot of the drawers are almost like an L shape to fit around the plumbing. The easiest method I found for installing drawer slides, especially side mount, is just clamping a scrap piece of plywood however far off the frame I want it to be, and I can rest the drawer slide on there, get all the screws put in, and I can get a consistent height for everything. But this is just an example. I had to do 9 drawers, so this is just one of the many times I did this process. After getting all the drawer slides installed, it made sense to me to go ahead and install the drawers. So I'm using a 1/4-inch sheet of scrap plywood here as a spacer to lift the drawer box off the frame, and also makes it easier to rest the drawer box on that sheet of plywood to get everything screwed in. Why not keep going? After getting the drawers installed, went ahead and installed the drawer frames. I used another thin piece of 1/4-inch plywood as a spacer between drawer fronts to get a even reveal. I did not leave myself much wiggle room, so this had to be pretty darn exact, but in the end it worked out super well. It's got the vanity in the bathroom. So now the next thing, got to get the concrete top, set it on here so we can trim out this bit of the corner so it'll sit flush against this wall, and then once it's flush against this wall we can trim this baseboard here and that baseboard there, so everything will be nice and tight. Countertop put on, so we're able to notch out over there. I just pulled this piece of trim and we're able to notch that trim down there. The next step was, because of where the plumbing comes out, had to pull off drawer slides from here and on the other side. I'll probably need to get 12-inch just because of how far back that goes. Probably have to modify some drawers. Probably just this drawer in the bottom was only 10 inches deep, so that one will be fine. Might have to do something similar to this one to accommodate the plumbing. But the next step, we're gonna pull this back off the wall, get the sinks attached, get the faucets put on, and then we can push everything back, and that should be the last time that we have to pull it off the wall. So it's going good, but still got some ways to go. We got sinks and faucets installed. You can tell plumbing. I think this one will be pretty easy. Might be able to just use the old stuff and reattach it. This one might have to get a little creative. I think I only have to edit this middle drawer, but the only thing really left to do is just attach this to the wall and then put some silicone along these edges just so that water doesn't go crazy. Okay, we made significantly more progress before lunch than I originally thought. Everything's set. We got the bottom slats put on for towel storage and miscellaneous things. So the only things that are left to do is I need to buy some 12-inch drawer slides for either side of this, just because of the cutout of the plumbing, which you can see there, and just modify that. I need to take this drawer back to the shop and make it a 10-inch drawer, just because of where the plumbing comes out. And then this one is just out because I still need to make the connection from that pipe up to the sink drain, and I just don't want to have to mess with pulling the drawer on and off. But other than that, this has gone very smoothly, and I think it looks pretty awesome too. Here is the final product. Got the knobs installed, got all the plumbing hooked up, and this honestly went a lot smoother than I originally anticipated it would, but with some careful planning it came together nicely. I'm gonna try and post another video making the countertops. There's just a lot going on there, not necessarily a how-to video, but just a me struggle through video. But thanks you guys for watching, and enjoy this final shot.